Welcome to Life Stories. Today, I invite you to join me on a journey of resilience, betrayal, and ultimate rebirth. In this story, a woman faces a life altering stroke, only to find that those closest to her have turned against her. As she navigates the pain of abandonment and the struggle for independence, she discovers an inner strength that transforms her destiny. If you're ready to explore the depths of human emotion and the power of reclaiming one's life, please subscribe to our channel and begin the story today. Let's embark on this journey together, one life story at a time. I still remember the morning vividly, the moment when my world began to shatter. I awoke to an unusual numbness on my left side, a sensation so foreign and bewildering that I questioned whether I was trapped in a strange, unsettling dream. As I attempted to reach for my phone, my arms simply refused to obey my commands. The body I had trusted all my life had, in an instant, become both my sanctuary and my prison. I whispered for help, a plea swallowed by the silence of my room, unaware that my silent cry would soon be answered in the most unexpected way. Within hours, I found myself in a hospital room where time blurred into a haze of white ceilings, incessant beeping, and the overpowering scent of antiseptic. I was 58 years old, and suddenly the doctors spoke around me, not to me, as if I were a child incapable of comprehending their grave words. They mentioned significant damage and long-term rehabilitation, as though my life were a series of medical observations, rather than the story of a woman who had given everything for her children. I felt both the cold, clinical detachment of the hospital and the warming love I had always known from my family. I clung to the thought that my children, Luke, Emma, and Dylan, were my lifeline in this moment of crisis. But as the days passed, an insidious truth began to emerge, one that made the sterile hospital walls feel even colder. Amid the chaos of my daily recovery routines and the monotonous rhythm of beeping machines, whispers filled the corridors, whispers of a guardianship petition. I was told, in hushed tones and with an unsettling air of certainty, that my children had filed to take control of my life. My heart shattered as I grappled with the realization. The very people I had nurtured, who had once filled my days with laughter and the sweet chaos of family life, were now moving against me. I lay in that hospital bed, grappling with a dual pain that was both physical and deeply emotional. On one hand, there was the agony of a body that no longer obeyed its master, and on the other, a profound sense of betrayal by those I had loved unconditionally. I had spent decades sacrificing my own dreams so that my children could flourish. A mother who had balanced two jobs, who had attended every soccer game, every recital, every moment that marked their lives. And now, as my weakened state left me vulnerable, they saw an opportunity not to nurture, but to seize control of my destiny. Their actions spoke to a betrayal so deep it stung like acid, dissolving the very foundation of trust we had built over a lifetime. In the silence of that long, painful night, I could almost hear the echo of all the sacrifices I had made, echoes of laughter from birthdays celebrated and tears shed in moments of quiet desperation. I realized that love, once taken for granted, could be twisted into a weapon. I was caught between the desire to trust and the overwhelming impulse to protect the remnants of my dignity. As the first part of my journey unfolded, I understood that my struggle was not only to reclaim my physical strength, but also to rebuild the shattered pieces of my spirit. Little did I know that this betrayal would become the catalyst for a transformation, a journey where I would learn profound lessons about resilience, the true meaning of family, and the courage to reclaim my life. In that stark hospital room, amidst the beeping machines and clinical detachment, the first seeds of rebellion were sown, and I began to dream of a future where I would no longer be defined by my vulnerability, but by the strength I was about to summon from within. After those early days in the hospital, my world shifted in ways I never imagined. Once moved from the hospital to a rehabilitation center, I slowly began to rebuild my strength, yet my heart grew heavier with each passing day. In that sterile corridor of recovery, I discovered the cruel truth. My bank accounts had been frozen. A cold voice on the phone confirmed what I had dreaded. The guardianship petition filed by my own children, Luke, Emma, and Dylan, had already set in motion plans to strip away my autonomy. The shock of this betrayal left me reeling. The same children I had lovingly nurtured, whose laughter had filled our home for so many years, now reduced me to an inconvenience in their eyes. In the midst of my vulnerability, a stubborn ember of defiance flickered. I refused to surrender completely to despair. I recalled the countless sacrifices I had made for my children, the long hours juggling work and parenting, the endless support at every school play and sporting event. Their callous move to take over my life felt like a theft of not just my assets, but of my identity and dignity. Amid whispered conversations in the hallways and furtive glances exchanged over my bed, I realized that my children's intentions were far from pure. They saw my frailty as an opportunity to secure their own futures, even if it meant erasing the woman who had loved them unconditionally. Desperation led me to reach out to someone I had once thought estranged, my late sister's husband, Frank. An outsider by all accounts, Frank had always possessed a rugged independence that both mystified and comforted me. With trembling hands, I sent him an email, my words laden with urgency and silent pleas for help. Frank's response was swift and compassionate. He arrived with a mix of concern and determination that I had not seen in my children. He brought with him a prepaid phone, a small token of hope that promised a bridge to freedom. Frank's unwavering support kindled a spark of possibility. Perhaps I could reclaim control, not just over my finances, but over my very destiny. Together, we embarked on a cautious plan. Frank, with his quiet strength and insider knowledge, helped me access a hidden emergency fund I had stashed away in a local credit union, a modest sum, but one that represented my security and independence. With each step of our clandestine operation, my resolve grew. I began to see that my physical recovery was entwined with a deeper, emotional resurrection. The rehabilitation sessions, the painstaking physical therapy under the watchful eye of kind-hearted professionals like Lydia and Margie, were not just about regaining movement. They were about rediscovering the woman I once was and could be again. It was during one of these therapy sessions that I felt a stirring, a realization that despite the betrayal, I still possessed an inner strength that no one could steal. While my body learned to move again, my spirit gathered the courage to reclaim every aspect of my life. My escape was not merely from a rehabilitation center, but from a life manipulated by those I had once trusted completely. With Frank by my side, I began a new chapter, a journey toward independence, where I would not let the shadow of betrayal define me any longer. The day of reckoning arrived with a mix of dread and resolve. I had grown stronger, both in body and spirit, and it was time to confront the painful betrayal head-on. In the early hours of that fateful day, I prepared myself, not as the frail, defeated mother they assumed I was, but as a woman reclaiming every fragment of her life. My heart pounded with a mix of anger, sorrow, and a budding hope as I walked into the Bayview Inn conference room, where my children, Luke, Emma, and Dylan, awaited with expressions ranging from apprehension to feigned concern. As I took my seat, I could feel the weight of the past weeks, the hospital's sterile walls, the cold whispers in rehabilitation corridors, and the clandestine escape from a life stripped of dignity. Frank, my steadfast ally, sat beside me, his presence a silent reminder that I was not alone in this fight. I began to speak, my voice steady yet trembling with the emotional intensity of my journey. I recounted every moment: the betrayal of the guardianship petition, the secret sale of the house I had nurtured for decades, and the emptiness of bank accounts that once symbolized my independence. I revealed the recorded video, clear evidence of my competence, underscored by the affirmations of doctors and therapists who had witnessed my recovery firsthand. My words filled the room with a somber clarity. I could see the flash of guilt in Emma's eyes, the guarded defensiveness in Dylan's, and the resigned silence from Luke. Each of them was forced to confront the enormity of their actions. The theft, not just of money, but of my very essence. I spoke of sacrifices made in the name of love and the cost of turning that love into a weapon. I reminded them that their actions had not only fractured our family, but had nearly shattered my spirit. I then laid out my terms. I demanded that every dollar taken from my accounts be returned, and that the proceeds from the sale of my home be transferred directly to me. In exchange, I would refrain from pursuing legal action, but only if they agreed to rebuild our fractured bonds through family therapy and acknowledge me as an equal, a person with her own dreams and dignity, not merely as a burden to be managed. I saw a flicker of remorse and regret in their eyes, mixed with the realization that we had reached a point of no return. As the meeting drew to a close, silence reigned, a silence heavy with the promise of change and the pain of a past that could never be undone. In that moment, I felt a profound shift. The confrontation, though excruciating, had sparked a glimmer of accountability in my children. I could sense the beginnings of a long, arduous process of healing, one that would require time, empathy, and a willingness to face the truth about our fractured relationship. Stepping out of the conference room, I felt an unexpected lightness. Though the road ahead was uncertain and fraught with challenges, I knew I had reclaimed a vital part of myself. I was no longer a victim of betrayal, but a survivor, ready to forge a future defined by my own choices, my strength, my dignity, and my right to a life lived on my own terms. As I walked into the bright afternoon, I carried with me the lessons of love, loss, and the profound courage to rise again. As the final chapter of my journey unfolded, I realized that every hardship had prepared me for this very moment, a rebirth of identity and purpose. I stood at the threshold of a new beginning, a woman who had weathered life's fiercest storms and emerged not as a victim, but as a resilient survivor. The painful betrayals of the past had transformed into invaluable lessons, each one teaching me that true strength lies in reclaiming your own narrative, no matter how daunting the obstacles. I took solace in the love I still had for myself and the promise of the future that awaited. Every step forward was a celebration of regained freedom and self-worth. I reconnected with friends, started to rebuild my passion for accounting, and even discovered a newfound interest in helping others navigate their own turbulent lives. The scars of betrayal were no longer signs of weakness, but emblems of a hard-won wisdom that I now carried with pride. My journey taught me that healing is not a linear process. It is an ever-evolving dance between pain and hope, despair and determination. The courage to confront my own family, the bravery to escape a suffocating life, and the relentless pursuit of independence culminated in a life reborn on my own terms. Today, I stand here as living proof that it's never too late to redefine yourself and embrace the promise of tomorrow. Thank you for being part of my story. If you found this journey inspiring, please subscribe to my channel to follow new videos of life stories. There are many more lessons, triumphs, and heartfelt moments waiting to be shared. Stay with us, and let's continue to write our stories together.